Welcome, and thank you for clicking on my video. And a massive sell signal just confirmed, and that's what's on the thumbnail, and that's what we are going to be talking about today. But in the shorter time frames, is this some kind of trap? Those are the two things we're going to talk about today. First of all, that massive sell signal confirming, and then also in the shorter time frames, is this some kind of trap? We overall warned you guys about some wonkier price action come March, and that's starting to happen as of right now. So we need to think about these things as we get into some technical analysis for the SPY Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, NVIDIA, AMD, and we're going to touch on Meta and the VIX at the end. So pay attention today. It's a good day to watch some stock videos because we need to be prepared for what's about to happen. So just touching on the daily here for the SPY, we're seeing that we have this downward divergence here. So we do have that divergence in the price action here. It's on the RSI and MACD at the same time, and we got that to confirm on the RSI. That's all we were really waiting for, was that to turn over, waiting for this to cross, and boom, that happened as of today. Good sign on the daily, though, is we weren't fully able to break through this very tight wedge, but it looks like that is about to happen. So really wanted to go into the shorter time frames here, and we gave you those daily risk ranges. Okay, so the 30-minute here, just to give you those risk ranges first off, to the upside, 511.70 for tomorrow and 502.66. So you see a little bit of volatility. Now we're going to see bigger swings throughout our days moving forward. So first off, I wanted to go into a 5-minute, show you guys something that we actually put out on Patreon. We gave you guys on Patreon, we're trying to go over a lot of these weekly ranges and setups that could be for the end of the week or that are happening right in front of us right now. This was one of them. So do join that Patreon. It's down in the description, and we give out a video. And I'm going to give out multiple videos throughout the week on Patreon if I see these types of setups. So we're actually seeing a 5-minute divergence getting closer to positive territory outside of that weekly risk range. Okay, so this is something we can pay attention to. We're getting that good reaction at the end of the day. We had some wedging, mainly just getting tight in here, and we could see some kind of pop. So this is overall what I'm paying attention to. And once I see that, I really want to look at a 30-minute. If this is able to roll up, this would be a good sign for the SPY. If this fully rolls up and gets towards or above positive territory, we actually could see a new all-time high again in the SPY here and stay in this wedge even longer, which is kind of crazy to think about. But we were talking about some traps being set in March, and we said last week, hey, this is your first trap, now you're going to get a second one. You got the second one, now you're getting maybe a third one. Are we going to set up some kind of fourth one? Maybe really what I'm leaning towards is watching this MACD to a T on the 30 minutes, seeing if it curls up into positive territory and curls back down. If it curls back down and we get outside of this daily expected move, we could see some resistance up there, see that curl back down, and guess what? You'd have a left, you'd have a head, and you would go and form that right shoulder. Okay, the thing about this right shoulder is it would be very close to breaking this wedge. It would be very close to negative territory. So if this does create some kind of right shoulder, or if we go create some kind of divergence, well, this wedge is getting tighter and tighter, and once that breaks, it's game over. So really pay attention if this MACD is able to roll over in negative territory, because that could just be some kind of right shoulder, and then we're actually going to take out this low, which would take out this entire base, which means we might free fall down to something like 497 next week. The Qs on the daily, I just wanted to show you guys how we have that divergence on the Qs as well. We have that divergence up here on the daily, on the RSI MACD at the same time, and it just confirmed. So it is a time to say, hey, this could be pretty scary, and we're most likely going to see a bunch of puts in this market. And when we do see a reaction on the put side, usually we do actually see something bounce a little bit back. So we are outside of that weekly range. The daily for tomorrow, 441.79 to the upside, 430.31 to the downside. A little bit of volatility here, and look how much these have spread out. So now the options market pricing in a little bit much just means if we get excited tomorrow and get outside that, look for that to come back in this range, because right here would be a good spot to land the end of the day tomorrow. Paying attention to that. Going into a 5-minute again, just wanted to show you guys this. We talked about this on Patreon already. Thank you to my Patreon members. I really appreciate you guys, and we're seeing that positivity come in end of day here. So see this down here. We have that 5-minute divergence outside of that weekly expected move for the Qs here. And the cool part about the Qs on the daily expected move side, the daily expected move for today was right here. And guess what we did? We actually gapped completely below that, held it as resistance, and started seeing lower prices. We were talking about this on the live video. So if you want to talk about what's happening with these daily ranges, join us for our live video. Even if you're just sitting listening at work or something like that, it's good to keep an ear on what's happening. So And you know me, I like to talk about my stocks. So divergence down here, when I see that 5-minute divergence, I'm really looking for some confirmation on the 30-minute. So this 30-minute, if it's able to curl up, yes, that means that positivity will be here. And guess what? We could curl up on the next 30-minute bar. If we start to gap higher like we are right now, that's really what you want. You want to get above this weekly expected move again so you can use it as support. Now, if we get excited and that kind of keeps ripping during Jerome Powell and then he says the wrong thing, that could be some kind of right shoulder. So really, same as the SPY, really want to pay attention to this MACD. If it rolls over into negative territory again, good shot we're actually taking out this low and making a new one. Not necessarily leaning towards that at this moment, though. I think in this market, we're going to see a bunch of traps. We're going to see a bunch of wonky price action. So you have to be willing to trade like water. You have to say, oh, this was a trap. Now we're getting a trap up here. This is a trap. It was confirmed. Okay, is this the next trap? These type of markets can eat people alive. That's why we told you last week, this market is about to turn into a bloodbath for all traders, not just bulls, not just bears. It's going to turn into a bloodbath because we're going to get a ton of fake outs up and a ton of fake outs down. And when we do come down, I don't know if it'll be a full-fledged crash down like this. I really think because this was such a bullish move, we are going to bonk on the tree limbs on the way down a plenty of time. So expect volatility to really go up and down in the month of March. Apple, this thing is just free falling. Look at that. It broke. We talked about this. It confirmed that weekly divergence. It confirmed that monthly divergence. This was telling you, hey, there is weakness in Apple, and we start to break down. We break down hard. Okay, so the only thing from the daily perspective you can pay attention, you're way oversold at this point, and it can keep going. Don't think it can't. But a lot of the time when we come out of the Bollinger Bands like this, we talked about this live with Palo Alto, you do like to reconnect with some of those moving averages before you see that selling come back in. So we could actually see a positive reaction from Apple as far as the next week goes, and then we see that start to drop off. That's really what I see in here. Now, you'll notice the 30-minute, what are we doing? We're really just stair-stepping down. So if you try to take a trade with this, it could be catching a falling knife. We're just dropping down, flagging, dropping down, flagging, and this is way outside of the weekly expected move, which means that dramatic selling can continue. Okay, so be very careful. Now we did leave behind a gap, and a lot of the time we do gap down, and then we retest this important zone to head a little bit lower. That could happen again, actually. We could get some kind of retest of this zone, fake some people out, get some people trapped up here, like this thing's going to fully reverse, and then that comes back down. So how you can know that that's happening, really just pay attention to your MACD, pay attention to the reaction over here. So what you'd want from the bull side is if this comes up into this area, you don't want much selling in here. You want to see a little bit of a head and shoulders. Okay, now if we're going to keep coming down, well, you're going to see that 30-minute pop up. We're going to see that MACD crossover and then cross back down into negative territory, confirming, hey, the negative trend is still here, and maybe this is just some kind of bounce to then head to lower levels. So that's what I would be paying attention to on Apple. Be very careful with this. It is way outside of its weekly expected move, and that is where we see these crazy things happen. Now, Amazon, something we talked about on Patreon. Good little trade setup for Amazon here if you were able to catch it. And thank you to my Patreon members down there in the description if you guys want to join. All right. Now, the big thing we were talking about, 5-minute divergence down here. If you have those weekly ranges on Patreon, that makes it even more helpful. Helps you figure out some more probabilities, some more reasons to take a trade in this area when there's so much bearishness in the overall media. So we did see this divergence down here. Now we're starting to scoot back up, creating a little bit of a lower or higher low here. So if we wanted to head higher, look for that to complete the cup, get a handle, then complete the big cup, get a handle, and start to head higher. We can start to stair step up if this 5-minute even gets into positive territory. What I like to look at with this is a 30-minute. See if this is able to cross up. It is a good sign that you're taking back the 9 above the 200 on the 30-minute chart here. So that's something to pay attention to. Now you still want to watch for the same things. Is this going to just fill this gap and start to crash down, giving you some kind of little head and shoulders up in here? That would make a lot of sense. And what you'll see is this will cross up, maybe even get into positive territory, but watch out if that crosses down, because this big bounce here could be ripped away if this wants to cross back down in negative territory. If this is going to go positive, really look at it testing this high. I'm not necessarily leaning towards a higher price in Amazon. I'm open to it, but I'm going to be really paying attention to this gap fill, paying attention to my MACD, because this is going to be my big hint. If this pops up, curls back down, it means bad news for Amazon, and we're most likely seeing lower prices. Tesla on the daily, this is pretty cool because Tesla is way outside of its weekly range. This is another one that you don't necessarily want to catch a falling knife on. Now, the thing that hasn't happened yet, we haven't got this daily crossing of the MACD down here in negative territory. So once that happens, I really think we're heading towards a 154.78, and we're going to take out this low. So that hasn't happened yet, though. So we do have the potential for some kind of bounce to reconnect with our moving averages before heading lower, or move sideways and let those moving averages catch up before heading lower. So that's something to pay attention to as we go into the shorter time frames here. 30-minute, really what I'll pay attention to as far as Tesla goes. But remember to be very careful with this. It's outside of its weekly range, and that's where the crazier things happen. This could just be some kind of consolidation to make its next leg lower. So be very, very careful as you are in negative territory. So if this does see some kind of meaningful bounce, look for if that's able to curl back down. This is actually very simple. Look for the MACD to curl back down in negative territory. If that happens, then most likely that daily is going to cross and you're going to take out this low of 175. So pay attention with Tesla. Be willing to move like water while trading. Move around those rocks, and Jerome Powell is going to be talking tomorrow morning, and we're going to be here watching it with you live tomorrow morning. NVIDIA, I know a ton of you guys are trading NVIDIA, so I want to give you guys something helpful. I'm going to give you that top side range. We talked about this, and we gave you the bottom side range as well on the Patreon, but just because so many of you guys are trading it, and I really do want this channel to be helpful, especially going into this week. Look at this, the top side range, 864.83, so we're right there, and we're about to see a strong move maybe to get above it, so really pay attention if this MACD crosses, because we could get some kind of divergence up here. The big thing here is people most likely are thinking, hey, yeah, NVIDIA is going to follow Tesla, NVIDIA is going to follow Apple and start to crash down. So they might be piling on the puts. So we'll bring up Maximum Pain tomorrow on the live show. Come in, like the video, and ask some questions, and we'll talk while Jerome Powell's talking as well. But people could pile on the puts here. What did we say in the live video today? If people pile on the puts, that opens up the door for another squeeze to happen. So we could squeeze, this could squeeze all the way up to 900. Okay, 900 is your big call wall, 800, your big put wall. Okay, so these people are slowly going underwater, especially if this is starting to trickle up higher. Maybe we hit a little bit above 900, see this curl over and give us some kind of divergence. Right when people give up on shorting NVIDIA, that thing could start to rip to the downside. So NVIDIA really looks like this thing might be a rug pull at the end of the day. So be very, very careful, as this is a bubble. Now AMD is going to be very, very similar. Don't have the top side range. Actually, I do have the top side range up for you. So AMD, similar story. 217.10 to the upside. I'm going to give you the top side range for that as well, because I know a bunch of people are trading it. Look at this MACD still in positive territory, about to curl up. That means more positivity. That means we can test this high. We can go make a new one. So I'm going to be staring at this 217 level with you guys tomorrow live, seeing if that strength comes in and then creates some kind of divergence while Jerome Powell is talking, or if it wants to extend for quite some time. We'll pay attention to those things, and we'll let you know on the Patreon, giving out a video, trying to make those videos during market hours if I can. If I see setups, I want you guys to be able to look at it during market hours and make a decision for yourself. Just me showing you guys the probabilities and showing you guys where the risk to reward is throughout the week. So AMD looking pretty good, but if this wants to, come up and reject from this high, that would be a double topping. I really think this is going to go up to 217. I think a lot of people piled on puts, and I'm going to bring up that max pain tomorrow to see if I'm right. Meta actually was able to come down into, you guys know that Meta was what I was trading. I saw this little double top here. I wanted to see a little bit of selling come in, and then boom, we get that sell off to the downside. It hit my price target, 488.53. I made that money nice and fast, so I got out of my position. I started to see some bullish things on the SPY, on the Qs, just little setups, and we're outside of that weekly range. So when the Qs and the SPY are way outside of their range like this and then starting to do this, I go, well, it's still early on in the week. It's only Tuesday, and this thing could still end up back in this area like it does 68% of the time. So I want to be careful with anything I'm shorting if I get out of there too fast. So this is where I just say, hey, it hit my price target. Let me be a good trader. I said it live. I was like, let me be a good trader, take my profit, and move on. And I'm very glad I did. It started to bounce right after I took profit. Now it did hit that level again, but I was able to make more money in the morning off this. Now, the thing with this is you just want to watch a similar thing as AMD, as NVIDIA. See if this is able to curl up and get into positive territory. If it's able to curl up and get into positive territory, you'll probably be somewhere around that 500. Then you have a good shot to take out this high and actually come up into this trend line. You actually can come all the way up to something like 515 in the near future if this is seeing some positivity throughout the next couple of days. So I believe we are trapped now down here. This is just my opinion. I believe that we are trapped now down here. The market, trapped us here, now trapped us here, now trapped us here, now is going to go trap people up in here, and this might be the final trap. And then we see that rug pull. CPI next week most likely being very, very important. Now, one that dropped off pretty good was Google. So I want to talk about that for a minute. Right at the 200, okay? Not fully, I mean, it is closing a little bit below it, but not fully, I would say, confirming that's below the 200. It's outside of those Bollinger Bands. So I'm seeing if this is able to get some kind of reaction up to fill this gap, reconnect with these moving averages, and see if they can come back down, and then we can kind of follow that on the way down. If you're going to see a good reaction, watch this trend. Somewhere around that 140.97 is where I'm paying attention. We've seen resistance come in there a few times. Resistance right above it. When we break through that level, we actually retested it, and then we saw that big move higher. We weren't able to break below it. So I just see it as important for Google. This is a huge drop off, and this is another one that could be catching a falling knife because this is a pretty big drop off over the last couple weeks. As the SPY and the Qs had higher, this is not what you want to see from your Magnificent Seven stocks. In the shorter time frames, 30-minute, you see that crossing, okay? So if this cross, that means, hey, we have potential for some positivity here if it can get into positive territory. So I would really be paying attention to this level right up in here, this 140 level. If that starts to create some structure, then we can talk. We can talk about more bullishness, but I'm really leaning towards, I think we're going to make another lower high out of this, and I think we're going to see this come up and then fail. And that will really be easy to see if that happens because we'll watch this MACD come up and then turn right back around in negative territory, meaning it's probably going to take out this low, head towards this trend line somewhere around 127.50, 128 is where I'm really paying attention to Google in the near future, seeing if I can get a bounce around that area. If it starts to lose that level, then it's not going to look pretty for Google. The last thing I wanted to talk about was the VIX, and I should have pointed this out on my Patreon video. I will be better at it. I just kind of rushed myself during this last one. So what I really wanted to point out on the 15-minute was I saw divergence forming up here too. This is kind of what also convinced me to get out of my meta short, is just the fact that this is going up, but we have that flatness across the board of the RSI here. We don't necessarily have it on the MACD, which leads me to believe, hey, we could see this drop off, but that could come back very, very quickly. This could just be some dramatic pullback in the VIX in order to then head higher in the near future. So that's really what I'm leaning towards. Something I'm looking at as well, the 2 hour, seeing if that's able to remain not cross pretty much. I really don't think it will. But if we do see that extreme positivity come in, we could see that cross and come fill this gap down here, get some kind of divergence right at positive territory. And then next week, maybe we get some bad news with the CPI. The big thing crash-wise you need to pay attention to was, we talked about this live, the VIX needs to get and stay above the 200. That's kind of your first check. So it hasn't stayed above the 200 yet, so no crash is going to happen just yet. Now, if tomorrow that wants to stay and close above 200, you have that opportunity, but it hasn't done that yet. So I really think once this MACD is able to fully curl up in positive territory, that's the moment. That's when we're going to start to see price really start to spread out, price really start to pull back, and we may be starting to hit that stair step up while the market takes that stair stepper down. So the overall takeaway for today is, yes, we are seeing some dramatic sell-offs, but they came below that weekly range within the first 2 days of trading, which tells me as a trader, hey, the probability of us getting a bounce here is actually high. If I can see some divergences, okay, I see those. Let me make my next move. This might be some kind of trap. So I believe that this might be a trap, and we may get another trap tomorrow, and this market is going to continue to trap both bulls and bears back and forth throughout the whole month of March. That's really, really what I believe at this point. And I just overall wanted to say thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. You guys like, you subscribe, you join the Patreon, a couple people taking the course, giving me feedback. It's all been great. Join me back for tomorrow's live video so we can watch some Jerome Powell together. And I hope you guys have a great, great night. But I hope you guys have all the luck in the world trading tomorrow.